a fun day.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jenny Kwan, and I'm hosting this book launch this morning. It is such an honor for me to be introducing Rasheda Weaver at her book launch. I have been following her incredible work since she started the social enterprise directory. And I, as an academic, think of her work as absolutely essential, an essential data collection, effort that is just incredibly essential for the field of social entrepreneurship. Um, it's a growing and dynamic field that I am just dabbling in compared to what Dr. Weaver is doing. And it is helping to define an increasingly important and just incredibly fast growing field. Academics are continuing to create new definitions for social enterprise, and they're just trying to keep up with a rapidly evolving phenomenon. And so what Rasheda is doing with the social enterprise directory is absolutely critical to doing that work. To me, all of the work that people are doing with defining social enterprise, keeping up with the evolving nature of it, is an indication of how the importance of social enterprise is growing, and it's just an increasingly and continuingly dynamic field. So it is an area that is now becoming important for businesses, large and small, for investors, for philanthropists, policymakers, nonprofits, you name it. And it's just sort of spreading in terms of importance and relevance. So, and so what Rasheda is doing with the social enterprise directory is just start, because this book is something for practitioners and academics alike. She has delivered an incredibly accessible, and packed a ton of content into this slim volume. So I am thrilled to be able to congratulate her today and to celebrate this with all of you. And so I'm so glad to see you all. And I just want to thank her for all of the work that she's done and is continuing to do. So Rasheda, congratulations. Thank you so much for hosting, for having this book launch and for inviting me to host it. And I want to introduce you and have you take it away and talk about the inspiration and the overview, and we'll take Q&As later. So Rasheda, please take it away.
Thank you, everyone. So the overview of today's talk, well, once again, I'm Dr. Rasheda L. Weaver, and I am the founder and CEO of Weaver's Social Enterprise Directory. Thank you so much for being here for the book launch of Social Entrepreneurship, A Practical Introduction. This is just, such an important day for me, and also just so much work has gone into this book, like years of work. And so it's such a beautiful time to just see it come to fruition, because it takes so much work, from idea to book proposal, to book submission, to book writing, then book submission, and then all that. And just an overview of what we'll talk about today. So this is going to be a fun event. We're going to keep it lively. We just did the welcome and introduction. And we're going to talk a little bit about the book inspiration and give you an overview. Then you'll have a chance to speak. Our guests will have a Q&A, and then I have some giveaways. And lastly, I'll end with a takeaway message, just some positive vibes for the new year coming in. And so once again, I'm the author of Social Entrepreneurship, A Practical Introduction, founder and CEO of Weaver Social Enterprise Directory. I'm currently a research affiliate at Rutgers University as well, though I'm running Weaver Social Enterprise Directory full-time. I've been a faculty member at the University of Vermont and Iona College for the last 5 years, and I've taught over 1,000 students globally. I'll talk a bit more about my teaching in Spain that I did this summer towards the end. And I conducted the first large-scale study of the social, economic, and legal activities of social enterprises in the United States. And Weaver Social Enterprise Directory is actually the largest database of social enterprises in the country. And a lot of that came out of my dissertation, and it's just, now it's in the book. It's all in the book, all these years of work. And so I'm just excited to give it to you. So let's talk about the inspiration before we get into like what the book is about. So I'm a first generation American of Cuban and Jamaican descent, and my upbringing really, really inspired the work that I'm doing today. And so just growing up in the Bronx and having family with a history of poverty and being the first person to really like break the cycle of poverty in my own family. And but I saw poverty from multiple lenses, right? So I have Cuban grandparents that were refugees and fled Cuba and went to Jamaica. And then my Jamaican parents that had a different kind of poverty than the poverty I experienced growing up in the Bronx. And when I was, in the Bronx, like life was really good, but there was just certain things that we just couldn't do. And there was a lot of crime and violence around where I was. But I knew that I could change it. I knew the world didn't have to be that way. Honestly, like at 6 years old, I had this epiphany. Like the world doesn't have to be this way. Like everybody doesn't live like this. And if everybody doesn't live like this, it doesn't have to be like this. Because I went to school actually from ages 7 to 9, modeling school in Midtown Manhattan. And so I was literally in a just around surrounded by wealth while always going back home to the Bronx surrounded by poverty. And so it really just shaped my world in a unique way. And then I started, somebody called me poverty girl in college. I started traveling the world. I mentioned this, actually, Joanne is here, and we were doing work in Cincinnati, Ohio. Also did work in New Orleans, Louisiana, building houses. I went to Morocco to learn about, I'm letting people in, to learn about female empowerment and, just around the world, and just started studying all these issues that were, there was always poverty somewhere, but also affluence somewhere. And I just noticed this disparity. But one of the things I noticed more than anything was that I kept feeling like I met amazing people that could do something about it or could do more with their lives, but they weren't. And there were some that were, and a lot of them were social entrepreneurs. And but I wanted to know what was the difference between these people. What allowed some people to sit in dire situations, devastating situations, and deal with them and endure them, and what inspired other people to say, you know what, this bad thing happened to me, but now not only is it going to stop it from happening to me again, but I'm going to transform the lives of other people that have been affected by this issue as well. And so that's really what launched me into this field. So now let's talk about what is social enterprise. How many of you have heard the term before? Or like with that? Awesome. What do you know? What's your definition? Costanza. She's like mute button. I unmuted you, I think. It's okay. It's okay. Oh, you can type it in the chat also. But yeah, the definitions of social enterprise and social entrepreneurship differ around the world. But what is the most common thing that all definitions have in common? Let's see. Is that it's about entrepreneurs using entrepreneurship as a means to facilitate some kind of positive social change, to combat some kind of social problem. And the social problems can vary in nature. It could be poverty, it could be climate change, it could be homelessness, it could be restoration of the forest. It could be a lot of different things. And so social enterprise is an increasing form of entrepreneurship throughout the United States and the world. And actually, the United States has one of the highest rates of social entrepreneurship in the world, but we have one of the weakest support systems for social entrepreneurs. What I mean by that is I've done a lot of work in Europe. And for example, they have like regional funds for research that advance and regional programs that advance research on social entrepreneurship, and on national registries for social entrepreneurs so that they can register with the government, get access to certain funds and contracts and resources and training. But we don't have that in the United States, even though we have some of the most social enterprises in the world. But there are some typical characteristics, and I'll go through them in detail. So typical characteristics of social enterprises. Before I get into the characteristics, let me give you an example of what a social enterprise is. All right, so Grayson Bakery is one of my favorite social enterprises, and they are based in Yonkers, New York. They were created by a group of people that lived in Yonkers, and they just saw the dire poverty, impoverished conditions there. And so they came up with a model. We don't hire people to bake brownies. We bake brownies so we can hire people. Their idea that if they hired people without restriction, so they don't ask you to do an interview. They don't ask you for your address. If you're homeless, you don't have an address. And so they don't want to have any barriers. We call this social hiring or inclusive hiring. They don't want to have any barriers to the impact that they can make. They don't do background checks because if you were formerly incarcerated, that's a barrier, right? And so their goal is, if you need a job, I'm going to give you a job. And so if they can't give you a job, they put you on a waiting list for when a job opens up. And so that's Grayson Bakery, and they sell brownies in order to do this. And they've been incredibly successful at this. And if you've had Ben & Jerry's, actually the brownies in Ben & Jerry's is from Grayson Bakery. Just Ben & Jerry's is also another social enterprise, and they do a lot of social marketing as well. So what you'll see is that all social enterprises have a social mission. Sometimes we call it triple bottom line. They'll have an environmental mission as well. They all also have an economic mission, meaning they generate revenue in some kind of way. Most are locally embedded. So most social enterprises are run by 1 to 5 people. 70% make over $100,000 annually, and 30% in my study make over $1 million annually. Yet they're run by 1 to 5 people. So they're small organizations usually, but there can be nationally recognized organizations as well. Like, for example, Newman's Own is a social enterprise here in the United States, and they have a for-profit and nonprofit model. The for-profit is Newman's Own, and the Newman's Own Foundation is the nonprofit, where Newman's Own donates all of its profits into the foundation, and they then disperse those profits to different charities. Once again, most social enterprises were started by somebody that was personally affected by the issue that they're trying to solve, or someone that witnessed the issue on someone else. And they address a diversity of social problems. So I've literally seen a social enterprise that does digital detoxing. So that's very, very rare that we hear that, where they literally, it's like a retreat. They take you out into the woods, and you can't have your laptop, you can't have your cell phone, and you cannot see any man-made objects. So no skyscrapers, you're out there camping. And this is supposed to reduce anxiety and depression. So this can literally be like, wherever there's a social issue, and a way to positively solve it, there can be a business around that model. And last characteristic, they have a flexible organizational and legal structure, meaning they can be for-profit, nonprofit, or a combination of both. And since 2008, the United States has developed 4 laws that were dedicated to to the creation of, or the facilitation really, of social entrepreneurship. And we can talk more about that in the Q&A, but what I will say about all of these laws is that they're for-profit laws. They enable you to run a for-profit business and have a social mission as well, because there are limitations towards doing that in a traditional business. All right, so 2 more examples before we really get into it. So for another for-profit example of a social enterprise, Warby Parker, you may have heard of them. There's one on the Upper East Side in New York, actually, but they're an affordable eyewear company. Both of the entrepreneurs that started this wear eyeglasses, and they understand the importance of just being able to see correctly, right? So if, for example, Warby Parker gives 1 pair of glasses to people in different countries for every purchase that is made here. And why that's important is, if you can't see, you can't work. If you can't see, you can't cook. If you can't see, you can't help your kids with their homework. And so this is very, very important work. And I think one of the things I love about studying social enterprises is that I'm learning about issues that I'm not experiencing, but I can now be empathetic to them because of a work like this. So that's an example, and they're for-profit business, very successful business. An example of a nonprofit social enterprise is the Women's Bean Project. So some of their funding is philanthropic, donations, government grants, and private grants, but they also sell gourmet beans, like literally dried beans in a bag. And so, and then handmade jewelry that the women make. Now, their social mission is providing employment, transitional employment to low-income women, meaning The employment isn't for you to stay there for a lifetime. They're trying to build you and transition you into something better. So these women come in, they have often have less than a year of job experience or education. Sometimes they're domestic violence survivors, and they come and they train them and help them go through the ranks of the company. And then eventually they move on to bigger and better things. And so giving them a head start in life. Now, what I want you to really understand with this table is that with all of these examples that I've given you, they're selling very simple things that many of us, if not all of us, can actually sell if we really wanted to. So somebody at Graceland Bakery made a really, really good brownie recipe and started selling that. That's all they sell, brownies, different flavor brownies. Newman's Own, I love their salad dressing and their lemonade. So you may have had that too. Warby Parker sunglasses. Women's Bean Project, they're selling beans, literally dried beans in a bag. What's beautiful about this is that they're selling simple things using the gifts that the entrepreneurs have, but they're doing big things because of how they're using the revenue that they're generating with that money. And so it's business as usual, well, almost as usual, right? In business, you have a product, you sell it to a person, you make money. But in social entrepreneurship, you have a product, you sell it to a person. Sometimes the product itself is the social mission. And sometimes, oftentimes in these cases, they're giving back in some kind of way. They're either hiring people, social hiring, or they're advancing some kind of social cause. So what makes a social enterprise unique? So it's what social enterprises do with their revenue that distinguishes them from a normal business, and how they generate revenue that distinguishes them from a nonprofit organization, a traditional nonprofit organization. So how and why do social enterprises emerge? All right, so most social entrepreneurs, like I said, have either experienced a problem they seek to combat or witness its impact on people that they know. And the economic activities that they engage in to create social value often relate to the gifts of the entrepreneur. So once again, it relates to the gifts of the entrepreneur. So like I always tell people, when you think about social entrepreneurship, you have an idea, what is your gift? What is something that you do so well that you probably honestly take it for granted, right? Like one of my gifts is speaking. That's why I'm teaching, right? And training and writing. But we all have gifts. I firmly believe that every single person is born with a gift. Sometimes we develop multiple over time and they can overlap. Some people are great mathematicians. Some people are amazing artists, and people are singers. That's a very visible gift, but some of our gifts are some people are just organized and attentive and compassionate, and that is their gift. And what I want to inspire you to think about today is, how could your gift like manifest in social entrepreneurship in terms of an organization? Just to think about it. All right, so before we conclude, I just want to get into the theory of positive social change that really is the heart of all this work. So there's this idea, well, not the idea, this is the reality of our world, that we have a lot of problems, right? We're going through a lot right now. We have inflation, recession, just all these crazy things happening in our society. And there's this assumption that we have organizations that already exist and that they're doing something about it. And they are. But it's not adequate because we still have the problems. So that's where social enterprise comes in as an intervention to create both short-term and long-term social changes. I'll give you an example. So Graceland Bakery, for example, the short-term change is hiring someone. The long-term change, which is demonstrated by evidence of social hiring, is lack of reliance on government assistance, reduce recidivism, meaning reduce rates of people that were formerly incarcerated going back into prison because they have a job and they can feed their families, increase housing because you can actually afford a home, and increase your social network because now you have a job, you're meeting different kinds of people. And also the kind of job that you have is one in which it's transitional in nature. They want you to progress. It's developmental. And so those are the short-term and long-term changes, examples of that. However, having taught over 1,000 students, I have to just say that the more revenue, this is what I found in my research, the more revenue that social enterprises generate, the more they can do over time. And I say this because a lot of people want to save the world in one day. They want to develop business today and they're like, all right, I got my social enterprise and poverty ends today. And it doesn't really work like that. I'm sorry. I wish it did. I wish I could snap my fingers and that would happen. But what we'll see, I'll give you an example. So for example, what Graceland Bakery found when they started their open hiring program, their social hiring program, they found that many people still couldn't take the jobs. Why? So they had to figure out, why couldn't they take the jobs? Okay, Well, they're poor and they couldn't afford childcare. Childcare is a huge expense. For everyone knows that. It's like literally, I pay over $1,000 a month right now in childcare, and so that's what they found. So they built a daycare. They built a daycare for their workers so that they can help alleviate them because they were committed to getting them economically sustainable. And so what I say to aspiring social entrepreneurs, don't try to solve everything in one day. The moment you get started and you start impacting people, you're going to learn more about their needs. It's going to come up over time. And then you'll develop services as you generate more revenue and you get more established, you'll develop the tools needed to address their problems. Now, how can you all get involved? So there's a lot of different career opportunities. So if being an entrepreneur is not for you, at least not today, I always say it's good to have training in entrepreneurship because you just don't know what's going to happen in your life. Lots of people, we're in the great resignation right now. We're in a recession. Lots of people are thrown into entrepreneurship. And so it's not like something that they envisioned. And so if you can have the training, I think that's why the book is useful in anything. I think you should always just cultivate knowledge in this area. But there's so many different things that you can do. Like you could become a lobbyist, you could become a social enterprise convener. You just bring people in the field together. There's such a need for that. You could become an accelerator, incubator, meaning you help them literally train social entrepreneurs to become social entrepreneurs, which is what I'm doing with Weaver Social Enterprise Directory. A researcher, a writer, a magazine editor. We need a social enterprise magazine. I always say, even like Joanne, what me and her were doing is we were in civic engagement in college. And that is a gateway to finding social entrepreneurs because many of the students that do service learning work or civic engagement, whatever you want to call it, experiential education, many of them are aspiring social entrepreneurs, but they've never heard the term before. They don't know that there's an entire field dedicated to this and into advancing this movement. And so they don't know where to go. So if you have knowledge of this subject and you're working in one of these different positions, you can help people simply by doing that. And social enterprises are organizations, so you can also buy social. All right. So if there's one thing I want to leave you with, one major takeaway from this talk and from this book, it's that every problem is an opportunity for transformation. It's an opportunity to solve that problem. So every social problem is just an opportunity for social change, and social enterprises are simply a medium through which that exchange can occur, through which that transformation can occur. So this is a book cover, Social Entrepreneurship, A Practical Introduction, in stores today. And the main question that is really driving this book, as well as all of my work, is if I teach good people how to make money, how much good will they do with it? And so this question, it cannot be answered overnight. This is something I'm tracking. I already started the Ready, Set, Launch Social Enterprise Bootcamp. I saw Cheryl pop in. And so hi, Cheryl. She's a participant in the bootcamp this July. And I hope you're coming to Italy with me this summer, Cheryl. And but I already started that. And now we have the bootcamp, and the people that participate in the bootcamp all want a longer program. That's coming in 2023. Also starting a newsletter in 2023. The newsletter will simply have opportunities. That's all it's going to feature. It's going to be job opportunities in the field, learning opportunities, grant opportunities. It's just creating a space to just spread knowledge about all the amazing things that are happening, because the reason the book is called A Practical Introduction is because the majority of the world has never heard this term. And so it's really about educating people on what business can be. Have you ever heard the saying, it's just business? And have you ever noticed that always comes after something awful has happened? Let's change that. It shouldn't be just business, right? It should be that business isn't really just hurting people. And that's really what this movement is all about. And one of the things I'm also thinking of starting is a social enterprise education journal. And I got training on how to do that this year through being the managing editor of the Metropolitan University's Journal. So, we'll see what happens. That's going to be in the future, though. That's the future. So where this book is being sold, Routledge is a publisher, and they're giving a 20% off discount, but it's also being sold at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I mentioned I'm from the Bronx, and so it's being sold at the Boogie Down Grind Cafe, a social enterprise in the Bronx. That's all about spreading, selling Black-owned products, Black and Brown-owned products, and just, celebrating Hispanic and African-American culture. And then other bookstores, you can request it at your local bookstore, and you can request it at your local library. I'm trying to within about the next 3 months to get it into the majority of libraries in New York and New Jersey, but it'll be sold all around the world. And a portion of all profits will be donated to Teen Challenge, which is an organization that helps people with substance abuse and mental health issues. So this is just a picture of the Ready, Set, Launch Social Enterprise Bootcamp, 5-day online bootcamp. That really is like the next step after the book if you decide to like further your training. This was the online, a screenshot from the online bootcamp that we had this July, and this is for 2023. We're going to Florence, Italy, and that's literally Florence, Italy. That's what it looks like. It's like walking in a painting, and I hope some of you will join us. And there's only 20 people that can come, because I mean, more people can come. That's a lot of people to manage. But some people have already registered, and so just get ready for an exciting time to learn more about that in 2023. And then Weaver's Review, like I said, bringing knowledge and opportunities to your inbox each month about social and enterprise and entrepreneurship. And I just, before we wrap up and do a Q&A, just some acknowledgements. I really, really want to thank the MS International Research Network for Social Enterprises. They're based in Belgium. As you see in the picture on the right, they recruited me to become a faculty member for their PhD summer school this summer in Spain at the University of Sevilla. And it was just one of the best experiences in my career. And for a week, I was able to like pre-launch my book to to faculty and PhD students from over 20 different countries. So that was really amazing, because the goal is to have it be used in classrooms throughout the world. That's the goal. And I also want to thank Arnova for just always supporting my career. That's how I met Dr. Kwan and so many other people in this field. I published research with Arnova. They provided grants to me. They've just been really, I think, just instrumental to my success. And I'm a board member for the Social Innovations Journal. It's a practitioner and researcher journal. And so if you have work related to social enterprise that you'd like to submit, please submit it to us. And so just thanking them as well. And thank every single one of you for being here. And this is just such an amazing moment. We'll do giveaways after the Q&A. And I'll stop sharing my screen so we could do a Q&A.
Thank you, Rasheda. That was such an amazing overview. And I also want to echo, like I also have a copy of the book. It's as I mentioned before, it's a really concise, slim volume that you can totally use in undergraduate teaching, which is what I do. And it's affordable, unlike so many other textbooks and things like that. So it's really, really accessible. So anyway, thank you so much for that fantastic overview and the background and context for the book too.
Thank you.
So now we get a little time with Rasheda for Q&A if anyone has any questions. And if you have trouble with your audio, please just enter it into the chat as well. I'm happy to relay the question.
Commenting back to Joanne's comment.
And I I have a question to kick us off while people are working or are thinking about their own questions. But Shireen has a question. Do you have a list of the places doing the work that you were just talking about? And she would love to share that with her students.
Do you mean like the career opportunities? What work exactly? The list of the places.
Like for example, all the social enterprises, like the Bean Project and all the other,
Oh, great question. So that's either socialenterprisedirectory.com. So that's my website. It has information for over 1,200 social enterprises throughout the United States. So yeah, and I'm so happy you asked that question, because that website will give it to you, and you can identify them by social problem or by what you'd like to purchase as well, or where they're located and things like that.
I'm actually going to put that in the chat as well. So you can just click right on it. Okay, Joanne is asking, what chapter did you feel the most cautious about? And what was the book writing process like? This great question.
The most cautious chapter, I think, may have been the revenue model chapter, just because it was getting really, really, really long. because I was like, I wanted to just, I think with all of the chapters, I wanted to just put like every single thing that I knew, but I also wanted it to be a handbook that as you're building your business, you can go back to and just say, all right, I need this information. Let me just get this really quick and implement it. And so I literally, the whole revenue model chapter, I feel like I could write a whole book, and maybe will, just on that topic.
Yeah.
I think my favorite chapter to write was social enterprise and community development, because one of the things that's talked about in that chapter is community capitals and like all these different resources that exist in different communities. And many people, like a lot of people, don't tap into these resources. And as new entrepreneurs, it's just really important for you. Everybody thinks about money, but it's like sometimes the intellectual property that you can obtain just from knowing certain people, or like having being in a particular city with a great library, like that makes you the money. Like it all converts and like blends together over time. And I feel like everybody's like, I need funding, but sometimes you have things that are better than funding because they help you create the funding that you need through revenue generation once you have them, once you have that knowledge.
So I have a follow-up question to that then.
Please.
That response. So I love that you're mentioning like people are resources. In the book, do you talk about all of the various kinds of supports that there are for social entrepreneurship, and like how far like people as well as governments and things like that? And
I do. I give a lot of examples of case studies of social enterprises, what they do, and maybe how they've done it in some cases, maybe like over 60 examples. And my second favorite chapter is I think it's chapter 5, social impact models. And that one is just like, if you want to start a social enterprise, read that chapter, read it well, and you have just a plethora of information on how to design one. Because that's why I actually got started in the field. I wanted to create a social enterprise, and I said, I don't even know how to design this thing. Like, how do I make money? How do I do good? Like, am I doing enough good? Like, how do I measure this? And so, that. And then, and I'm thinking, I also give resources on different organizations that support social enterprise work and conferences and things like that. I'm going to create an instructor manual and workbook as well that I'm going to launch in January. But what I wanted to do, and this is a tip I give to entrepreneurs, is you get the book out there and you get the feedback, you get the good and the bad feedback. And whatever bad feedback I get, I will just put into the manuals, the workbook and the instructor manual. So I'm like, okay, here you go. But also this is edition 1. So edition 2 will come out as well, because knowledge grows over time. We're constantly advancing knowledge. And so we can incorporate that knowledge as time goes on.
Absolutely. And I think that, so that sort of dovetails with Costanza's question, which is, she knows people who want to do this. Where do I start? And I think one answer to that is like kind of look around for some resources in the area where, like you may not have thought like, oh, there's an incubator or something like that, or some resources that you wouldn't think that was, relevant to you. But Costanza, do you want to also talk more? And the other thing is like, start with the book, because it can help you think about how to think about it. But yeah, Costanza, please go ahead. And if you have any questions or follow up with that as well.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good. No, yeah. So I love this. A lot of information. I guess we don't think about this stuff and we don't have the resources. So I love the fact that you're able to provide that at the end, how you showed us that there's different businesses out there. Like, we want to support small businesses, but we don't know what's behind them, So I love that. I definitely will be getting the book. Like I said, I work in the finance industry, and I have a lot of people who are small business owners and they want to make a change, So some of them do it through church, but they're like, how can I use my business to, to be able to, they just don't know how,
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that. And thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your question. And I'm thinking also you could start with the book, literally start with socialenterprisedirectory.com, because that's also, they can learn so much about the organizations in there. There's 1,200 of them. And I would say find your favorite organization and reach out to the CEO.
Oh.
Yeah, reach out to the director and tell them you'd like an informational interview with them. Most people would love to talk to you about to another entrepreneur that's just getting started. They would love to honestly do that. And I have my students do that every semester. They always do an entrepreneur interview with somebody that they admire. And sometimes it literally leads to job opportunities, partnership opportunities, because you finally find somebody that shares a vision that's similar to yours, and you just never know where that can take you.
That's a great idea. Okay, Cheryl, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. It's me, Cheryl. So good to see you, Dr. Weaver. I'm really excited for you. I am so excited that I brought my...
She's gonna, I'm gonna drink that after I have my...
Well, okay, it's water. It's sparkling water because I still am working. I brought my bit to cheers you with my sparkling blueberry water. So I got really fancy. So really wanted to just say congratulations. Right?
Thank you. Cheryl was in the boot camp. So can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I can talk about the boot camp in which I experienced all the emotions. Which is like excitement to obtain so much knowledge, complete exhaustion, like what am I going to do with all this knowledge, and soreness in my whole body. Like when you go to an actual boot camp at the gym, you're like, yeah, I'm going to get it. And then you're like, wait, this is hard and I'm tired. So I experienced all of the emotions and just really, I think, an overwhelming experience of gratitude for, you, Dr. Weaver, to share your knowledge. And I learned a lot, particularly just to kind of focus in on what I'm doing with my business and try to expand it in a way that, is serving like the community, right? Like that I want to serve. So I really appreciated that part and just like getting all of the resources. I learned a lot about like different business structures and how to really set myself up for success. See, I think that's a direct quote from you. I swear you said that. I think you have said you want. Okay.
Stack the conditions for success in your favor. Always stack your conditions for success in your favor.
So I learned that there's a lot to absorb. So I'm really grateful for the book. I can go back and, kind of go to the book as a resource. And I think the other piece that for me, just in particular, as a Black Latino woman, is just who you are and just modeling this information and how to really share information and pour back into the community that's important to me. I'm also in the Bronx, so that speaks to my heart. And I appreciate just like trying to expand my knowledge as a business owner, because it's scary out here because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So it's helpful to have, just the knowledge and the guidebook. So I'm appreciative of that. I do have a question.
Oh, yes. And thank you so much.
Get ready for it.
We had such a good time in the boot camp. It was hilarious.
So it's not a really complicated question, I don't think, but if you could speak to, I guess, your experience with other business owners who have started social enterprises. And what would you say is like, the biggest kind of key for that success? And please don't say to me the things that I don't want to hear, like, well, Cheryl, don't give up and keep at it, because I don't want to hear that. I want to hear like a concrete, because there's a lot to absorb. And I just want to like hear, I guess, what is the prevention for failure?
Yeah. Well, I think you have to make up your mind that you're going to succeed, and that I'm just going to succeed, and you will then just honestly find opportunities to succeed. And you have to create a space for that too. Like you have to dedicate time to your organization. I talk about this a lot, like creating the time and space for creativity, like having a little nook in your house where you are just focused and time. You might need an hour a day. You might need at least 30 minutes a day to just focus on your craft, your business. And, we spend so much time doing things for others, but if this is nourishing your soul, and this is social entrepreneurship, so it has a social impact. You can literally change lives when you're doing this kind of work. And I think you have to think about it that way, because when you think about it that way, it's not really like, it just changes everything, because the biggest challenge that social entrepreneurs face is actually related to financing, setting prices, managing their expenses, managing cash flow. And so a lot of that actually comes because they're so good-hearted. And that's why I wrote the book, because I'm like, you need commercial business strategy with that good heart, because you can have that good heart, but it will fail you if you don't have sustainability, financial sustainability. That's super important. So remember that your social impact is directly tied. It's a reciprocal relationship with your financial impact as well. So the more revenue you generate, and that's the finding, I mentioned it, that's the finding, the more revenue you generate, the more that you can literally do for the people that you're serving. So remember that. And I think that'll take you through it. And failure is not an option. It's just a learning experience. Every time we fail, we get up, fail fast, fail forward, and we learn from it.
I think Nelson Mandela says, I never fail, I either win or I learn.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I love that.
Shout out to Nelson.
Snap.
I love that, Cheryl. And also I want to just, I mean, I'm thinking about Rasheda, you said, you know, like, it's just business is always following something that's bad, but it's actually what you're saying, right? Is it's still a business, and we want it to be a business. And so you need all of the business skills and approach to things and stuff like that. And let's change it so that business doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah. And it's like, you don't intentionally go out of your way to hurt people, which is what lots of businesses do, unfortunately. You know, they turn a blind eye to the negative consequences of their work, or they deliberately have predatory tactics on certain people. But you have to just remember that you have to price, you have to be strategic in how you're financing your organization. So it's about strategy. It's about knowing customer discovery. It's about having a solid revenue model so that you can just sustain yourself. Absolutely.
I have a follow-up question if no one else has anything yet, which is, Rasheda, you've also talked about your boot camp and how there's some follow-up on that too, which will support the people who, like Cheryl, who have been through the boot camp. Can you talk about the first boot camp and how you did that? Because I mean, I get it, as an academic, you're doing all this work. Writing a book is something that academics do, but how did that first boot camp come about? And it's continuing to evolve, of course, and into, you know, like, how can I continue to support folks? So yeah, that first one, like, how did that happen?
So, you know, I really was responding to the needs of social entrepreneurs. And when I started the directory, social entrepreneurs just started reaching out to me like crazy. So they really loved the resource. And then some came and they said, you know, this is great. Like, you've mapped the social enterprises, but like, I don't know how to make money. Like, nobody's ever trained me in this. I don't know, like the same questions I had when I first started out. Like, I don't know how to design my social mission. I know what I'm doing. Can you help? Like, can you provide some kind of training? And I said, okay, well, I started writing the book, and then I realized, like, okay, this is going to take years, because I started writing in 2020, guys. And it's 2020, we're about to be in 2023. So I was like, this is going to take a while. And so I decided to do the boot camp because that was just quick, right? It's the same thing as teaching. I'm already teaching students this. I just repurpose it and reorganize my slides for the boot camp. And then I put it out into the world. And then it just started getting, you know, booked, because it's the thing that goes back to like need. Once you understand your customer's need, every need is an opportunity to solve that need, to fulfill that need, right? Amazon fulfillment center is what they call it, right? We're fulfilling people's needs. And so that's really what I did. And then when we ran the boot camp this year, it was just phenomenal. And it was better than I thought it was going to be, honestly. Like, I knew the content was great and it would be a good experience and a beneficial, but it was just, honestly, I think it was just amazing. I think we were like, I was tearing up at the end. I think we all didn't even want to leave each other. It's a really great environment, and I always create a community where people feel safe. You can feel safe to speak your truth. And also, entrepreneurship is hard. A lot of it is mindset, and we all have doubts. We all have fears. And I think what the beauty of the bootcamp is, you're sharing that with the whole group. And you realize you're not alone. This is not you. You're not crazy. Everybody has this. And guess what? We're going to put one foot in front of the other, and we're going to walk past those fears and into prosperity.
Wow. That's amazing. So it was actually in response to people reaching out to you, which is so weird because I'm not sure, because you were telling Cheryl, like, and Costanza, like reach out to social entrepreneurs, and I would be like, I can do that. But anyway, so that's incredible. I love that.
And see, like I listened, I was excited. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, you're interested in social entrepreneur. Like, I'm just excited that you're interested in the same topic.
Yeah.
You know,
Totally. And you're totally right that people want to talk about this stuff, they will make the time as busy as they probably are. So that's great.
Oh yes, trying to reach your goals. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Cheryl.
Thank you, Shireen. Awesome. All right. So any more questions? So I have some giveaways.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. We don't want to run out of time.
Thank you. The next camp
yeah.
is July 10th to 14th in Florence, Italy. And so all the information is on the website, and people have asked me if there's a payment plan, and yes, there is. You just send me an email and you can just pay monthly instead of the full thing up front. And that's going to be amazing. So I went to Italy. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. And that's just going to be phenomenal. We partnered with, interesting. We're partnering with First Glass, a female-owned wine company in Italy. And so I think Cheryl, if you decide to come, she'll be speaking on the panel. It's a celebrating female entrepreneurship event. So we're promoting, so entrepreneurship in Italy is very different for women than it is here. And so we're talking about the experiences of American and Italian women in entrepreneurship, and how can we just learn from one another. And it'll be a really nice event. Everybody gets wine at the event because it's a wine company. And it's a beautiful space, and it's literally right on the water. And the restored palace that we're seeing, it's a restored palace that's also on the water. It's just beautiful. It's going to be amazing. Be a really amazing experience. And but let's do the giveaways.
Yes.
Before we run out of time.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Go back to the slides. All right. So can you see my slides full screen?
Yeah.
So this is what we're giving away. This is a gift box from a social enterprise called the Social Stories Club, based in the United Kingdom. And cool gift box, and every single product in the gift box. I have 2 to give away. So you're gonna, Jenny, I'll let you randomly select people.
Okay.
But it comes with a box of all the different organizations, like information from them on how they got started. And I just thought it would be a great way to learn deeper about social entrepreneurship while it's engaging in those goodies, like enjoying those delicious goodies.
Excellent. Yes. So I would like to invite someone to enter in a number between 1 and 9, like a 1-digit number, into the chat, please. Okay, number 4. So I'm going to, I'll go with number 4. Oh, and then 3s. Okay, so I'm going to pick on my screen, I'm going to count from the bottom to number 4, and that is Laura Wood is our first winner.
Laura Wood, awesome.
Congratulations.
Congrats, Laura. We have one more.
Okay, and for that, I'm going to do number 3. So thanks, guys, for entering number 3. And I'm going to count down from the top, not including me, and from my list of participants. And I've got Elizabeth Whittington. Congratulations, Elizabeth. You're our next winner.
Elizabeth. And so I hope when you signed up, you can actually send me a private message in the chat with your addresses, and I will ship them to you ASAP. So that'll be exciting. So woo! Great job.
What happens if I just put my address in the chat in case you just want to send me one? Is that a thing?
You know what? Speaking of that, so we have a lot left on the Starbucks gift card. So please go and get several things today. So because I had planned it for a lot more people. So use the Starbucks gift card today. Get cookies, get coffee, do your thing. Hot cocoa.
Is that in my email? Is that, where do I find that in my email?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'll check that.
Everyone now too.
Okay.
And so it's just a picture, and you just bring it to they scan it, and then it'll pay for it for you. All right. So my final words are that the most powerful weapon on earth is the human soul on fire. I know that many of us have had a challenging year. This has been such a crazy experience for me writing this book. And I just felt like this is literally the quote that got me through it. It's really, I honestly believe in this. And I believe that, you can achieve absolutely anything you want to in life if you just put your mind to it. And if you set your soul on fire and you blaze past anything that is trying to get in your way. And so I just want to leave you with that. And thank you for being part of this journey with me. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, happy everything, happy Kwanzaa. And I just wish you all the absolute best in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rasheda. And thank you all for joining us today. Like I said, I've been a huge fan of Dr. Weaver's for years now for all the work that she's doing. And I see that I'm not the only one. So I'm just so happy that we were able to have a little time together this morning. Morning for me, I'm on the West Coast, to come together and celebrate. So thank you, everyone, and have a really nice holiday season.
Thank you so much, everyone. I'll stop the recording.
Bye. So good to see you, Dr. Weaver. I'm really excited. Let me
See you too.
cheers again.